All right, so welcome Team ET to another bi-weekly live ET project recording, and we're at the top of the hour, so let's get straight into our conversation, which is all about career transitioning. And as I said in one of my posts recently, this is a really hot topic. It's a topic where over my own career, I've had the honor of interviewing a lot of people for positions. And I've always been interested to observe how underprepared most candidates are as they look to transition their career. And as we come into the more current time, I've had the opportunity to talk with a number of leaders about their own career transitions and what they're doing, but also the second element, and that is transitioning not, let's say, from one job to a similar level job, but transitioning from where they are today to perhaps a new career, even at a higher level. And you'll see in the coming weeks and months that some of our guests talk about this. We have one CEO in particular who's been very successful in this regard. And in actual fact, that's her aim, is to really stretch herself not only by transitioning careers in different industries, but with each transition to make a step to a higher level. So very fascinating, I find, and I thought we'd take the opportunity today to just go through and share some of the initial questions that we need to be considering as we start to think about career transitions. It's not just a case anymore of applying for another job. And very much the Gen Z and the millennials are starting to teach us older folk, the baby boomers, etc., about really being selective in your career choice. So let's dig into it and see what we unpack. So as you can see, transitioning careers and making the shift to that next level is what it's all about. But we start with this question, are you ready? And it's a really important question. As I said, a lot of the people I got to interview really didn't demonstrate that they were ready. They indicated that they wanted to make the transition, but they hadn't done anything about preparing themselves. And they hadn't considered their history to that period, like their experience. They hadn't considered a lot of research on the career that they wanted. They hadn't looked into the amount of commitment that would be required of them to change careers. And quite often, they hadn't looked at the companies in particular that they were trying to transition towards. So that's what we're going to look at in this first part under the question of, are you ready? So let's have a look. As you can see here, I want to prompt you to start thinking about, where have you come from? So what have you done so far? And as you can see, my own evolutionary drawing here actually represents me from a sports perspective, but also somewhat represents me in terms of, as I progressed in my sport, I also progressed in my professional career. And of course, one of the primary foundational elements, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is that it's so much easier when you do it with people around you that can support you. As you can see in the drawing, the fact that I have a coach there. Throughout my own career, I've had mentors, coaches, advisors, most of my career. And I highly recommend that for everyone. So what have you done so far to develop yourself towards becoming that elite executive talent? Somebody who stands out from the crowd, somebody who becomes an obvious choice for that company you're seeking to join. And I think it's a really valid question that not many people seeking this transition are asking themselves. It's certainly a question that I always like to ask in the interviews. All right, so with that, let's look at a little bit of detail about the steps you can take in discovering that journey, in discovering what you've done so far. So we're going to start by some reflection. And if I was coaching you as a career coach, I would have a series of questions. I have a document that I give you with 10 questions in as a starter, just to help you reflect. So we're not going to cover all 10. I'm going to cover a handful, maybe 3 different questions, just to get you thinking along the lines of what is it that I should be asking myself about my experience so far, and how has that helped me to grow and evolve in my current day career? So you can see the questions on the screen. The first one is, what do you consider the most significant accomplishment or milestone in your career? And what did you learn from those? So as we go through them, I get people to answer these in writing, not just to give me a verbatim, top of mind. I really want people to give these due consideration and think about it. And I even get them to draw a career timeline and identify maybe their top 5 milestones and think of what were the triggers that led to that milestone. So it's not just about the destination. I'm sure you've heard that many times before. It's not just about getting to that point that you've been aiming for. Maybe you set your objective for. It's the journey to that point. So what were the triggers that led to you achieving that milestone? I think it's a very important question. Second question you can see on the screen. Have you navigated challenges or setbacks in your career? Right? And again, what strategies or approaches have you found effective in navigating those challenges? So again, what's the learning you can take from your experiences? It's not just about going through passively in your career. I have this conversation with my daughter all the time. Life is too short. It's too important for us just to coast through and one day arrive at a destination. We need to be engaged in our life, in our career, and understand how we achieve the different things we've achieved. All right. So then the third question is, what skills or competencies do you believe that have been crucial to your success? And how have you developed and enhanced those over the career up until now? So what did you learn from day one through to now? How have you developed them? What have you done to add to them? Right? Really important questions to get you deeper into this whole process. Now, this is going to provide you a foundation. As I said, if you were doing it with me as your career coach, I would be asking you a series of 10 of these questions, and you'd be spending at least a week to go away, answer them, and come back and draw that career line and look at those milestones, look at those triggers. It's really, really crucial because it provides you that foundation. It gives you a sense of who you are and, what's typical for you in terms of the way that you respond to your career, because you're now talking about transitioning to a new career. So you better understand what's your norm. What do you like to do? What has been your guidelines so far, the guide rails that you follow? Because it's quite often the case, you may be the exception, but quite often the case that you're going to repeat your approach up until now once you've transitioned. So you need to be forewarned and foreprepared. All right, so let's look now at the next, once you've got those foundational questions locked in, consolidated, let's now look at what's next on the horizon, okay? And it's to start doing a little bit of research, not on the company. That's going to come later. I want you to do some research on your career. So what have you done about that so far? Let's have a look at a few questions. Again, you can see I've got them on the screen. But you need to start thinking about the industry that you want to transition into. Think about where we are today. There's so much change. It's so rapidly changing. Many of the jobs that exist today will not exist in 5 years. Maybe that also means some of the industries that are commonplace today will be radically different to what they are in 5 years from now. So it's essential that you start to really hone in and challenge yourself about those industries and that career transition that you're thinking about. So here's some questions you can start with to get you set up, right? So the first one is really looking back and saying, based on how you answered that foundational set of questions, what's your feeling now? Do you think the career transition is within the industry I'm in now, or is there a risk to that industry? Or am I tired of that industry? And do I wish to change industries? Do I wish to transition into a new industry? And of course, whatever way you answer it, if you're answering it honestly and knowledgeably at this point, then that's the direction you're going to go. All right. So that's what we want you to really be challenging yourself based on where I've come from, the style, who am I, my approach. Based on that, and given the fact that I'm looking for a change, is it going to be a change within my current environment or an entirely new direction? And it's a really important consideration at this moment in time. All right. So it's going to help you, as well as it says, to establish your wants and your needs. So once you've got that idea, then you can start to think about, well, what is it I really want in this next step? What is it I need in this next step? Why am I doing this? Is it because I want more money? Is it because I want more challenges? Is it because I want to move up in my career? Is it because I'm bored and tired with the job I've got and I need something that's going to stretch me further? There will be any number of answers, but you need to establish those wants as well as needs. Then the second question, this is where we start to get deeper into the research. Second question is, after you're clear on question one, let's start to look at what are the requirements for this new career that you want to move into. You know, I might be a chef and I'm looking to become an engineer. Well, what does it take to transition from a chef to an engineer? What are the requirements? Do I need to go back to full-time schooling, study? Do I need to get a new set of qualifications? Maybe my existing qualifications are already adequate. Whatever it is, you need to be asking this question. So what are those requirements? I need to have that clarity. Second part is, so as I've already spoken about, what's the longer term outlook for this chosen career? If I want to move from a chef to an engineer, what field of engineering? Am I talking mechanical, civil, electrical, whatever it might be, automotive? There's any number of different electrical engineering qualifications or avenues you can go down now. Which one is going to be most sustained in this new era? And the role that I want to move into, is that going to exist in 5 years? So there's no use heading down this path only to find that in 3 years' time, they've eliminated that specific area. So you really need to be looking longer term to get a feeling for what is it in the future, what does this career look like? Next one is, I'm just starting to look at this. Who can I find that's already got a lot of experience in this area? You know, is there engineers working in the industry that I'm interested in my example, that I can speak with? You know, what's their experience in their career? What advice might they have for me, or suggestions can they offer? What's their thoughts about the longevity of this particular industry that I'm looking to start my career in? So looking for people that can give you their perspective is super important. Now, on top of that, of course, what other information can you source, right? And of course, if possible, it's always great to be able to test drive that career before you jump headlong in and chop off or burn the bridge behind you. So if there's an opportunity, whether that's doing a short intern, whether it's working for free, whether it's whatever it means to give you a taste of what this new career looks like, highly recommend that if you can do that, then please do it. All right. So there's some starting tips for doing the research, doing the background, doing the legwork, if you like, to make sure that I'm not just charging off blindfolded without giving it due consideration. And that leads into the next set of questions. How much time and effort is going to be required from me in my own camp to make this transition possible? So, there's often this euphoria that occurs around the idea. I remember listening to, I think it was, his name has escaped me. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But his example was he was sitting at home one day watching an advertisement on TV calling for interested people to climb Mount Everest. And at this stage, he was almost 300 pounds, and he loved the idea of going out there and climbing Everest, but he was so swept up in the euphoria of thinking about what it would be like to get to the top of the world's highest mountain that he forgot about the reality of his current condition and how much effort and time and energy he would have to commit to be able to prepare himself adequately to make that possible. So, same message here. Don't get swept up in the euphoria and forget about the reality. If you're a chef and you want to move to an engineering role and you have no qualifications and you want to get there in 6 months, how realistic is it? Right? So you need to really challenge yourself, and getting more perspectives is always a great start. So questions like, how long am I prepared to give myself to make the transition? In the case of the chef to the engineer, very important question, right? So it could be I have to go away and do a 3-year engineering degree. Now, if I'm going to commit 3 years of my life, I want to make sure before I commit to that this is absolutely the career choice I want to make, and is this role going to be around in 3 years? So back step to those previous questions to do my research, to talk to as many people as I can, to really challenge and test drive what it means to be an engineer in this field. But am I prepared to give myself that amount of time to make the transition? Or was I hoping to do this within 12 months? Maybe. If that's the case, then perhaps it's not the right choice. All right? How much of my time am I prepared to commit to making the transition successful? So I might look at the long picture and say, okay, 3 years to do a degree. In that time, I will find a new company to work for. I'll start working maybe in a junior level and work up to it. But then the second question, how much time am I really committing in that 3-year period to making this possible? So does that mean that I've got to go to night school while I'm working? Does that mean that I'm going to spend my weekends studying? Does that mean that I've got to give up the sport that I love? Does it mean that I've got to spend less time with my family? Am I prepared to do all those things to make this transition possible? So there's another question for you to think about. And then again, a really important one is, in many cases when we transition, particularly if we want to transition to that next level, and we're transitioning into a new industry, it could be that we've got to start at a lower level. And we're going to then start to work our way back up. So am I ready to do that? Am I prepared to do that? Am I willing to make the sacrifice that means financially, in my status, to my reputation? Am I really prepared? Am I prepared to really go out and develop all these new skills and the knowledge that's needed? And if I look back to that first area where I look back at my career history and the experience of what I came through up until today, does that suggest that I'm really the right type of person that's going to be able to withstand those challenges? Am I going to be able to commit to that much learning, that much development? Am I a continuous learner? If so, great. But if not, then I really have to start to challenge myself and think about, well, what does that really, truly mean? And have I talked about it with my family if there's an impact to my family? Have I considered what it means to my financials? Have I considered what it means to my free time? Have I considered what it means to my stress and anxiety and potential burnout? These are all real questions. And I'm not saying that the answers have to be negative. They might all be positive. And you may decide that, yes, you're prepared to make these commitments. But the important thing is to be clear at the beginning before you start down the path. And that's what we're trying to establish. All right. So then let's think about, once we've got that knowledge, once we've looked at our own base, once we've done the research on the new career that we're looking for, and we're sure that that's where we want to head, we're sure that this is the industry of the future that we want to move into, and we're sure that we're ready to make the commitment and the time and put in the effort, then and only then, once we've got that clarity, it's time to start looking at some of the companies in that industry. All right. So this is intentionally left until this point. A lot of times I've seen people jump to this straight away. So particularly for those that like the idea of working for, let's say, some of the tech companies, and they've heard all the great stories. Google is a typical example, right? You know, the great working conditions, and people may work from home, they may work in a fantastic office environment. It all sounds like utopia, right? Well, maybe it is, but not every company is created equal. And it may be that you aren't the right person for that company. So now at this stage is when we want you to start to look into the companies and start to really do your research on those companies. So we almost do a loop now back to the earlier questions where we looked at the industry and making sure it was the right industry. Now we ask similar questions as we start to look at the companies. All right. So one mistake that I see quite often is that people fall in love with the ideal of a company they've heard of and read about. Maybe they know somebody who works there, and they get fixated on working for that company and that company only. So I would strongly advise against allowing yourself to fall into that trap at the beginning. It could well be that that is the company, but at the beginning, you want to give yourself some alternatives. It could be you don't get into that company, even if it is the one you decide to go for. So I would suggest that you look for a number of companies and never settle for just the one. Try and come up with a list of at least 3 and then prioritize. Now, which is the preferred one for you? Which one ticks all the boxes that you have for the criteria you're looking for? And then I wouldn't go for that one first, unless there's an opening immediately. I would probably work my way to that one after I've taken the opportunity to go to a couple of other interviews so I can hone my skills, I can get more experienced with the question and the answers, the responses, my own approach. So those tips are things that you would work on with your coach, by the way, if you go with it. So as I've said already, Then you would loop back to your industry research questions and start to really challenge each of the companies. Do they provide what I'm looking for? And at that stage, if you've done that legwork, for me, that is the ideal time to then look to engage with a coach. So why do I say that? Because a lot of people come to me, as an example, as a career coach, and they've done absolutely no preparation themselves. And we start from ground zero, and it takes a lot of time. It can create frustration on their part. They're paying me when they could do these preliminary steps themselves to give themselves an idea. Right? So I would suggest, if you have the opportunity to work through those first steps, you may want some questions. You may want to come and do an initial session and get an idea about the things you should be looking at, and then go away and work on those things before you then come back and work through with the coach again and refine and narrow down your focus, start to work on building your resume, start to work on some of the questions that you might want to be asking, some of the answers you may need to give, etc., etc. So you start to polish, you start to prepare for moving forward towards that career. Now, one of my own tips that I always give people is, if you're coming to an interview and I'm interviewing you, one of the things I'll always say is, so what have you already done that really shows me that this is a genuine desire to move into this area or career? Not necessarily with our company, but with this role, this career. And the majority of people say, look, I'm just looking to make the transition. I haven't really taken that next step. I'm prepared to do it. Of course, they're going to say that. But if you can already have started to work on, if you can say, well, I haven't started anything yet, but here's the research I've done. Here's what I've identified already that I will probably need to do as part of moving into this role. Here's what I'm prepared to do. I know it's going to take me 10 extra hours a week. I know it's going to mean that I have to do this during the nights. I may have to work longer on weekends. I know, and I'm prepared to. Think about how much stronger a position you're in if you're willing to be able to come to an interview prepared to do that. It really demonstrates the difference between somebody who's just trying shotgun approach to find a new job to identifying somebody who's genuinely looking at a career change. Right? So if you're either of those people, then you make the call on what to do. So as I say on the screen here, right, at the very beginning, I challenged you with, are you ready? Career transition is not something you do overnight, or you can, but it's like playing roulette. You're just gambling. Successful career transition really takes effort and energy and time. And therefore, you need to give it due consideration. You really need to follow through this process to bring yourself to a point of, I would say, consciousness that this is a deliberate decision and action on my part that I'm moving in this direction. All right, so I could defend myself. Somebody challenged me and said, that sounds crazy. Why would you want to do that? You've thought it out. You've challenged yourself. You've looked at the research. You've asked the right people the right questions. You've done the homework and you know what's expected. Therefore, you're ready to make it. So yes, you would say, yes, I'm ready. And therefore, this would be the ideal time to come and engage a career coach and start to work through some of the more detailed preparation steps. Now, there's a lot of other avenues. Coaching, of course, that's what I do. So that's my bread and butter. That's what I understand. However, another great avenue that a lot of people don't think about are the recruitment companies themselves. These are the people working with the clients to find the right people. So if you can find yourself a recruitment company and spend the time with them, if you can find one that's prepared to work with you, spend the time with them to understand, what is it that these companies are looking for? How do I best prepare myself? What are some of the questions I should be expecting? What are some of the better ways of answering those questions? You can get that in many cases for free from those types of sources. All right. And by the way, you must always do your research on the people that you're going to be meeting in the interview. I'm not going to go into that today. That's a whole different story, but you need to be prepared. So a coach, of course, will help you with all of this. And, one of the things that they bring to the table is if you come to them and say, hey, Wayne, if you came to me and said, hey, Wayne, look, this is where I'm at. I want to change careers. I want to do this, this, and this. Say, fantastic. I'm here to help you. I'll support you. I will co-create with you. I'll partner with you. But if you want to work with me, understand that I'm also going to hold you accountable to the actions that you commit to. So I'm going to be your accountability partner on this journey. So if you're only coming here looking for an easy solution, then maybe find another coach that's going to be easier with you, because I'm looking for my clients to be successful in whatever their endeavor is that they want to achieve, and therefore I'm going to do whatever I can to help you achieve it. So I'm going to work with you to make sure you're accountable for your actions that you say you want to take to get to where you want. Now, the coach will also bring experience. They will bring, in many cases, connections to different industries that may not have been possible for you alone. Doesn't mean that they will have direct connections, but most likely they will have ways that they've experienced in their careers that may be an avenue for you to pursue. So it gives you new perspectives, it gives you new opportunities. I like to look at it as it says on the screen. If I'm coming along to a coach, then I want to consider that I've already put all the ingredients together that I can to bake the cake. But I want a coach to come along and help me to understand how to make that cake better. So how do I come up with, the right temperature in the oven? How do I mix the ingredients better? How do I sift the flour and beat the butter or beat the cream? How do I apply the icing to the cake better than what I can do today? Right? And that's the way I like to look at people that are engaging a coach. The coach is there to do things that you don't or can't do yourself. A lot of people say self-coaching. Maybe it's possible. I don't believe that you can effectively coach yourself. That's my own belief, rightly or wrongly. You make up your own decision. All right, so that's the first part of the storyline today. Are you ready for coaching? Are you ready for career transitioning? The second part, I just want to show you an example of how we as our coaching organization would support you and help you prepare for, in particular, in our case, leadership transitions and moving to that next level. Now, I'm just going to give you an indication. You don't have to say, okay, well, it has to be with coaching for companies. This is just an indication for you to think about, transitioning normally means that I have to enhance my skill set if I want to move not only in my career to a new career, but also to the next one. And to give you an example on that, um, here's what our organisation looks like when it comes to the different areas of service that we offer to our clients. So we have on our website, we have a completely free section that's not shown here, but we call that Learn for Free. You can do that without engaging with us. But we have two main streams. We have what we call the ET project, and our live broadcast that we're doing right now is the one you can see in the middle, the ET project live. So this broadcast is all about giving you some insights specifically on a topic or an area. We have the ET Project podcast. That's where I bring other people onto our show every week, and we listen to their insights about their careers, about things that they've learned that can help you, particularly if you're looking to transition and move to that next level, right? It's like reading a book. I can spend my life getting one person's experience, my own, or I can listen to 100 other people in a short period of time and get 100 different perspectives and insights that will help me make that transition faster and move to that next level quicker. So that's what podcasts and reading books are so powerful. The live is more me challenging topics. And then we have an interesting one, which is called the ET Project Challenge. Now, the challenge is on a specific topic, and I'll show you an example shortly. But the challenge is what we do every quarter. So each quarter, 4 times a year, we will give you a new challenge on a specific topic. Now, these topics we've chosen are all leadership, skill, knowledge-based. So they will be topics like value creation for stakeholders. There'll be topics like communications as a core strength. They will be, storytelling. They will be, the one that's coming up is on facilitation. And then the final one is around, on sales. So specific areas within the leadership realm, skill sets that you need. Now, we do 2, 3, 4, and 5 day challenges. The challenge is not for the full day, right? It's like a 90-minute segment each day where we will give you a workbook, we'll do a live broadcast, we'll talk about some theory, we'll do some exercises, we'll even give you some homework. It's all free. You have an option, of course, to become a VIP if you want to pay a little bit of money, but it's all there just to give you an insight to a specific area. Now, what we then do is we transition from that first level, the ET project, and we move into our bottom level that you can see there, and this is all within our group called the ET Academy. So these are all paid for. You pay to come into these programs. We have 3 different types of programs. Now, this is aside from the coaching that we do. So we do one-on-one coaching, we do team coaching, we do group. This is excluding that for the moment. These are coaching programs, if you will. And the first one you can see is a virtual mastermind. Now, we run 5 different virtual masterminds. Each mastermind has the same structure. It consists of 4 2-hour workshops. Now, prior to the first workshop, we have pre-work and virtual check-ins. Then we have post-work, where we get you to commit to the actions, and then we follow up with a group coaching call. So effectively 8 hours of working together, plus the work that you do before and the work you do after, followed by a group coaching. And we have 5 different topics. Now, the way that we've structured our campaigns and our releases, you'll see shortly. We structure it so we do a challenge first, and then the mastermind that hangs off the back of that challenge. So, for instance, the challenge that we did last was storytelling. The mastermind was communications as a core strength. And of course, storytelling is one form of communication. All right. And then we move from the masterminds to our transformational talent coaching. And the talent coaching, we have 3 different programs, and they're at 3 different levels of your career. So they're designed for emerging talent. So if you're a new leader, up to 2 to 3 years experience, then we have a 10-week program. If you're a mid-level leader, then we have a 6-month program. If you're a senior executive talent, then we have a 12-month program. And they're there to help you transition to that next level. All right. And so we try and, again, challenge mastermind coaching program so that they stack on top of each other. And we do it 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then we circle back and we go again, challenge, mastermind program, coaching program. So let's have a look at an example of what I mean when I talk about that. On the screen, you can see our next challenge as an example. It's our shortest challenge. It's a 2-day challenge. And you'll see it's called the Ultimate 2-Day Challenge, of course, but it's on the topic of 2 key stages in achieving facilitation mastery. So that's our ET Project Challenge. They're free. If you want, you can sign up as a VIP, which brings you inside the process, and we give you more product. You get more out of it, basically. It's a cheap entry point, right? So even though it's a VIP, it's very cheap. Then we go to the second one, which is then the mastermind. So the next mastermind coming up is facilitation mastery. So challenge was talking about an introduction to facilitation, and then we go to the mastermind, which is actually going deeper into the topic of facilitation. So how do I gain more mastery, right? And then I don't have an example that follows that because we don't have a program specific to it. But to give you an example, the last transformational talent coaching program that we ran was called Excel in the Essentials. And this is our entry level, our tier 1 program, which is for emerging talent, for those leaders 2 to 3 years max in the leadership role, looking at 9 essentials that you need to have embedded in your toolkit as a leader to help you be ready to move to that next level. And the next level is what I'll talk about in a moment. So hopefully that gives you an indication of how we prepare you for, throughout our strategy and our structure. This is how we're preparing you to gain the knowledge, gain the insights required in this particular area of leadership. All right. So let's just have a look now at our next talent coaching program, which is what comes up in July. So this is our mid-level talent program. This is a 6-month program. It's called Executive Talent Launch, 6 Steps to Becoming Elite. So this is preparing you. If you're already a mid-level leader, there's an assumption, there's an expectation that you are ready as a mid-level leader. You're working in that capacity. You already have the skills to do what you're doing. That would mean by default that you have those 9 essentials, that you're able to do this current level, and you're ready to transition to that next level of senior executive. That's what we're preparing you for here. Now, what comes? I just want to give you an indication of what comes in that program, just a visual here. So a lot of bits and pieces on the screen, but it makes up the material content within the program itself that you receive over this 6-month period. So you'll find, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in the next slide, so I won't go through the whole process, but you can see there's a whole range. There's 6 workbooks on the left-hand side. There's a series of other workbooks on the right-hand side. You do a leadership survey at the very beginning to give you a snapshot of where you are as a leader. You do your career evaluation twice, at the beginning of the 6 months and at the end of the 6 months. You will get 2 sets of primers, one at the beginning of the 6 months, one halfway through the 6 months, as we move from looking at your inner strengths to looking at your external strengths. You will have a workshop, a 2-hour workshop every month. You'll have, at the end of a quarter, you'll have a mastermind, a 3-hour mastermind at the end of each quarter. You'll get a lot of little gifts and bits and pieces. You'll have access to our mastermind.com learning platform, which is put together by Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. It's where we host our programs. So there's a huge amount you get out of it. You'll receive a lifetime 20% discount on any future trainings. You will receive a certificate, of course, at the end. You will also have the opportunity to read articles that we've written specific for each of the topics during the program. You'll look at specific YouTube videos related to that topic. You'll look at videos that we've created. You'll look first at a 30-minute webinar that introduces each of the topics each month. There's a whole raft. You'll do one-on-one coaching with me or one of the facilitators. You'll do group coaching. So one-on-one coaching each month, group coaching each month. So it's a huge package, you can imagine, but extremely beneficial package for everyone that goes through. So let's have a deeper look at what's inside this package. Now, there's going to be a lot of information on this next slide, so I apologize. Unfortunately, the way that I'm presenting this slide broadcast brings it all up at once. It doesn't animate it. So let's have a look at this slide. Sorry in advance. All right. So top left corner, you will see before the program starts, we give you some pre-programmed primers. We introduce you to a primer package, we call it. It's a combo package, 3 videos and an ebook. Now, you get that free. You don't have to sign up for the program. This is yours just to give you an insight to the first inner strengths that we're going to be talking about in career transition. Then, if you come into the program and you've become a member of the program, then you'll see down bottom left corner, you'll see the month 1 activities. Now, there's a lot of detail behind each of these lines, but I didn't want to go into the detail here. But you'll see you need to complete some preparation. There's a lot of things there. You need to do your snapshot and get your snapshot report about where you are as a leader today. You need to complete your career evaluation. Then, before you start the workshop, we will do a one-on-one coaching so that we can understand where you are yourself, help you prepare for this program better, get you geared up and ready, make sure if you have any questions, we can be there to answer those questions. Then you'll move into the workshop. We'll go through the theory. We have exercises to work through during the remaining 3 weeks. And then throughout the 6 months in this particular program, you'll be identifying each month for each topic, you'll be identifying one key needle mover goal. So we're going to call it our goal sprint, our 180-day goal sprint. So each month you're going to pick one new needle mover goal that will guarantee you move in the direction towards that next level and that career transition. So that's what the 180-day goal sprint's about. And then in addition to that, we have 2 90-day good habit challenges. Now, the aim here is for you to identify in month 1 your bad habits and your good habits. but to identify first, highest, most pressing bad habit and work for 90 days to eliminate or rewire that bad habit and transition it to a good habit to help you make this transition towards where you want to get to. All right, so it's really powerful stuff. And then, of course, at the end of the month, we do our group coaching. Now, we repeat that structure. Although we change the topic each month, we repeat that structure. So you can see month 1, 2, and 3. And then in those first 3 months, we work on 3 inner strengths. And then we come to the end of month 3, and we have our first masterclass, which is a 3-hour masterclass. That helps us bring all those 3 inner strengths together, but also gets us working on that career transition blueprint. So what is it I'm going to do that's going to ensure that I'm heading in this right direction towards this new career, and I'm going to launch at the end of this 6 months. And then we move into the second half of the program, repeating the same structure as we did in the first 3 months, 3 new topics looking at external strengths, working on 3 external strengths, followed up again by a second masterclass where we consolidate and finalize our blueprint for our career transition. And that takes us all the way, and you can't see it because my body is covering it, but that's then a 6-month period, or actually longer than 6 months. At the end of the masterclass, we then continue working with you. So you've done all the leg, but now what we want to assure is that it just doesn't stop. You've put in a lot of effort, I can guarantee, for anyone that comes through this program. This is intense and immersive. So you will have really earned that piece of paper that says you've completed it. However, what we want to ensure is it doesn't stop. And so we're going to then work with you for another month. We're going to give you weekly challenges, and you will have decided each of those challenges yourself during that second masterclass. And the aim will be that those challenges are steps that launch you towards that career, that new career, that transition at the next level. All right. So that's how our program is structured. So we will work with you, and we have our own Facebook alumni group. It's an exclusive private group that you will join. And each Monday, I do a short review on the past week. Maybe some weeks when we're not running a program like this, I will talk about a coaching topic. However, during this particular program, I will be looking at your challenges that you will have posted in that alumni group to demonstrate what your challenge was. And at the end of the week, on the Sunday or the Saturday, you will then write your progress on that challenge. And then I will do a recap looking at the different people. Now, we're talking a small group, right? So this is 15 people max per program. So that's how it goes. And then right at the end of that month 7, if you like, we will do a final group coaching call where everyone can come together. They can hear from each other. You can talk about next steps. You can talk about your experiences. You can give us feedback. You can give us advice, etc. So that's what our program looks like. I don't want to go too deep on today, but hopefully that gives you a good indication of what you would get and what you can expect if you come into that program. And of course, as you saw on the screen, or you see on the screen, we start at the end of July, so that 6 months means roughly finishing around Christmas time or just after Christmas time with the masterclass. However, we normally break at Christmas, so we would finish in January, and then we would do month 7 in February. So at the end, you've really earned yourself the reward and the present. You will have so many presents yourself by that stage that this is what it's going to feel like. You're going to feel like a little a little child again at Christmas time, giving yourself a present because you've worked hard, you've earned it, and you're really now ready and halfway through that process of transitioning to that next one. All right, team. So hopefully that gives you an insight on some of the ways and our approach to supporting our clients on their journey. We can do the coaching standalone. We can do it in support of programs, campaigns, challenges, masterminds, coaching programs. We even have one you may have picked up that I didn't talk about, the Destination Mastermind. So the Destination Mastermind is our pinnacle of where we aim to get to with a very select group. In actual fact, before you're invited, you get invited, you have to be interviewed for the opportunity to join us on that Destination Mastermind. It's not cheap. We go away to some exotic location in the world. We try and do it 3 times a year. The pandemic, of course, upset that plan a little bit. We have one plan for this year, and we're hoping to get back into full swing next year with these Destination Masterminds. They are, I literally live for these moments because 10 people, maximum 15, depending on how much we get pressured to accept more people. But we go away collectively, and each one of us works on that next career move, that next breakthrough moment. And so that really excites me, I have to say. I love hearing the success stories that come out of going away with people, having the whole group working together as a nucleus for each other. So it's an incubator, if you like, locked away 3 days in an exotic location, whether it's in the Colorado Rockies, whether it's on an island in Fiji, whether it's at the top of the Burj Tower in Dubai, wherever it might be. We're together, we're in it together, we're working together, we're aiming for the same outcome, and that is the success of our next step in our career. And you can imagine the lifelong friendship that you set up with like-minded people, working, supporting, encouraging, cheering you on from the sidelines, if not in your advisory board, right? Many people end up acting as advisors, coaches, mentors, or others within the group. Yeah, so it's really phenomenal. But team, look, hopefully I've got you excited about making this transition possible, making it something you want to do, understanding what's needed for you to do it, and giving you an insight on some of the steps that we offer for people to be able to make it a reality. And if people are interested, of course, you can connect with us. Go to our coachingforcompanies.com website. You can see me on LinkedIn all the time. And just watch out for the next program. If you want to connect with me for coaching, you can do so through our website, etc. We'd love to see you. We'd love to hear from you. But hopefully that's given you a little bit of an insight about where we are, what you can do. You're jazzed, you're pumped, you're ready to make the transition a reality. Good luck to you. And with that, I will say thank you. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. And bye for now.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so I can pop up in your feed occasionally with a great tip for your ultimate growth.